Okay guys, so the next step is creating that bottom piece that I was talking to you guys about that's going to then change the ball for us. And we're also going to do one last update as well. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to hover over, choose a sprite, and we're going to click on the paint tool. We're going to call this bottom, and we're going to grab this rectangle tool. I'm going to change this to a different color. And I'm going to go ahead and make a very, very long bar. Okay. And I'm going to put this at the center. You guys can go ahead and play around with how thick you want it. It doesn't have to be too big, but about this much should be fine. If you guys want to add a design inside of the rectangle, that's perfectly fine. Just don't add anything outside of it on both sides, because there's no point, because we just want to make sure that it's just the line that the player touches. But if you want to decorate this, for example, maybe adding maybe some polka dots, or maybe a design or a pattern, you guys can do that as well. So that part is kind of up to you. But the next step that we're going to do once you're done creating the bottom bar, we're going to go into code. And we're going to start this off by going to the yellow events tab and using when green flag is clicked. We're going to go into looks and hide it. Next, we're going to go to the yellow events tab and add when I receive play game. We're then going to show this, and we're going to make sure that it always stays at the same spot. So we're going to add a go to X and Y. We're going to change X to 2 and Y to negative 200. So if I was to click on the green flag and click on play, this should be all the way at the bottom. Now, if you notice, it is cutting through my actual paddle. So if that's happening, where you can see that's kind of cutting it off a little bit, then what you can go ahead and do is you can go into looks and you can add a go backward one layer. And then that should be fine. So now that I have this pretty much set, the next thing I want to do is go back to my ball tab, ball sprite, and I want to go ahead and go back up to this block of code right here. So if you guys remember, we left this empty because we weren't sure, well, we didn't have the bottom sprite, but now that we do, instead of using mouse pointer, we're going to click on this and swap it out to our bottom. So now when it touches the actual bottom of the screen, which we have with this red bar, then it's going to lose. So I know a couple of you guys might have some questions, and I know two of them that might come up. The first one is, if you notice when we coded the animation, we added this if on edge bounce. So yes, you could use this and not need a little bit of these code, for example these two, because it'll bounce all over, but it can also bounce at the bottom as well. Because we can't necessarily tell it, hey, can you only bounce on the left, right, and top part? You can't do that, it just bounces all over. So because of that, we decided to go with this one where we specified what areas it can bounce. Second, we wanted to make sure that we coded this bottom area, but it's hard to code a bottom area entirely. So it's just easier to use an artwork that's going to then be used to kind of not only help the player know, hey, this is the area where you lose, but it'll also kind of help out, kind of figure out for the player and for our code that when it touches this, it loses. Another thing that you guys can do to this bottom too is it doesn't have to be a solid. So for example, I can use the select tool. I can add a gradient, and from the top, I'll make it invisible, and I'm going to go ahead and swap this out. So it kind of looks more like it's going to fall into like space or something, or it'll continue falling. That's kind of the idea behind it. So with that, that should pretty much be everything that you'll need for this. Just quickly making sure that we're not forgetting anything. Oh, here we go. So if you guys remember, for those of you who did the deep dive for the paddle, you had it so that the paddle will change its color when it's touching the ball. There are two quick updates that I want to share with you guys. So the first one is these mouse pointer ones, we're going to now swap them out for our ball sprite now that we have it. But we're also going to test this out really quickly. Okay, so it seems like it's working. Because in class we were testing it out with the mouse pointer and it did cause some issues. But as you can see now, everything is working, and if I get the ball to lose, it kind of breaks into different pieces. So everything works exactly how I want. Again, just remember that for the ball sprite, if you want to change the size of the animation, you're changing it here at the set size, so you can play around with that. But other than that, you guys are done with week 2 core. The next step is going to be week 2 deep dive, where we're going to be working on changing the ball to add an animation to that, and also adding our win screen as well.